We're here. We're in the studio. We're on Facebook Live. I'm here with Logan Crockett. For those of you guys who are watching, we're at the Full Circle Music Studios, which sort of looks like NASA right now, wouldn't you say?
There's a lot of gear in here. I mean, you guys are watching from two different cameras.
There's lighting.
So yeah, you can't hopefully, in theory, you can't see all of this stuff that we can see. But
we see
there's
it.
a lot to be seen.
There's a lot to be seen, and we're going to be talking about music marketing today with our VP of Marketing, Logan Crockett. So thanks for taking the time to do this today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just want to preface this by saying if you guys have any questions, make sure just to comment them, and we'll do our best to get through them. But we've got a lot of content to dive through, so we're going to just be having a conversation back and forth about a lot of the things that we have learned marketing music and some of the things that we've tried that have not worked. And I think there's a lot to be learned from successes, but there's even more to be learned from failures. We've tried a lot of things in the last year that have not worked, and we're not afraid to admit that.
Yeah, well, or things that, sometimes you don't have a complete failure, but sometimes you have something that you try, assuming it'll be really good, and it's only maybe a little bit good.
Yeah.
But even so, in like a business, any business, whether you own some sort of like company or you're an artist, the goal is to be as efficient as you possibly can and always chase the right opportunities.
Yeah.
And so we definitely learned what some of those right opportunities are and what some of them are not.
Yeah. And we've learned a lot of tools. We're going to be diving through some of that today, showing some even some on-screen examples. You've got your computer in front of you.
I do. With
its nice Full Circle Music sticker on it. I think every computer should have that. That's nice. I don't know if people can see that or not, but it's a nice touch.
We might have to start shipping those out with
sporting the swag,
certain opportunities.
Yeah, hey, if you're liking this, hit the little thumbs up button and share it too. That helps more people in the Facebook algorithm.
Well, and better than the thumbs up button, actually, if you do like the love or the wow something like that. Apparently, and I haven't like super verified this, so if someone's more into Facebook than I am and I'm wrong, leave that in a comment. But I wrote a blog. Sometimes blogs can be hit and miss. But apparently the theory is that the Facebook algorithm is now highly favoring the like other kind of emojis versus the
emotion reactions.
To the point where I guess likes happen so often that they're not even factoring it now.
Okay.
But if something gets a love or a wow or a cry face or whatever, then Facebook is like, oh, someone actually took the effort to choose something more than the generic like button. They must be really engaged with this post. And
if they gave it the heart, then it must be good content.
Yeah, that right. So then they actually do apparently favor it in the news feed quite more significantly.
I love it. And you may be watching this even afterwards on YouTube on our page. At that point, do hit the thumbs up.
Yes.
Because that helps.
Yes, indeed.
Each of them have their own little algorithms, and we've been learning a ton about that. But we're going to be talking about today, which I think is a great title and very applicable, but 4 things your fans want from you in the year 2018.
Absolutely. There are certain things that fans have kind of always wanted, but the reality is in 2018, and honestly as we go into 2019, 2020, the reality is we're becoming more and more and more saturated. You and I actually just watched a video this morning, and I forget the exact statistic, but it was something along the lines of the entire information of like human history, like everything that's been documented on like cave walls, all the way up through the first printing presses, and then all the way up until the beginning of the internet age in 2003. All of human history is recorded information from the beginning of writing things to 2003 is now being replicated every single day in 2018.
Yeah, that was a great quote from Eric Schmidt, CEO of Google. It says the amount of information every day is being doubled. So it went from what was kind of a linear growth curve to now it's kind of like a hockey stick.
Yeah. And so I don't necessarily think that it might be that close to the statistic as far as music goes, but the reality is, just late 90s, you were still in more of a situation where you had to, book a quote real studio. You had to, pay potentially $1 million, or way more to come out with a record. But now, anyone can put any sort of track they want on Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that sort of fun. So I'm sure it's not like replicating, the world's music every day. But the point is like the things that I'm sure are being released to iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon today, are just exponentially higher than what would have been iTunes came out in the early 2000s. So whatever was being released to iTunes, in per day in 2003, I bet it's like 10x that amount today.
It's insane because the bar of entry is so low. You can literally get on iTunes or Spotify for virtually free. You can record something on your iPhone, which you probably own, and you can upload it through TuneCore for, I don't know, $30 or something like that.
Yeah, same situation with CD Baby. Yeah, so pretty much there's no like record label that even has to get involved for you to do that. Anyone can kind of independently get their own track on any of those platforms. All that to say, there is more noise, more saturation, really just like anything else, anyone who's doing blogging, anyone who's making videos, anyone who's selling a squeegee. Literally anything that you're doing, more and more people, there's fewer barriers of entry. There's more and more ways to do that yourself now. And because more and more people have the opportunity to make music, more people are making music, which means you're, if you're a music maker, whoever's watching this, you're getting lost in the noise far more easily because there's so much more noise.
Yeah, there is. And so it's really important to be the first P of which is on our list. There's 4 Ps. Well, no, there's not.
I was going to say, I don't think
there's no Ps.
I mean, there's at least one P.
There's
there.
one P.
No, there's 2.
We got
2 Ps.
First
going
of
on
the
here.
2 Ps.
We also got an F and an S.
Yes.
But we'll just come up with an acronym for that later.
Yeah. PFSP. These are 4 things that are really important that fans need you to be as a music maker in the modern industry. So why don't you talk about the first one?
For sure. So in order to break through the noise, one of the biggest things that your fans want from you is for you to be personal. That just means, it can't be like this 10,000-foot view between you as a music maker and your fans. You can't be this inaccessible entity that kind of lives beyond them, and maybe they, see pictures you're posting on social media or whatever. They need actual personal interaction. I really came up with this idea because yesterday, someone that we've been working with, her name is Madeleines. She did something really cool and got our whole team Christmas gifts. So we kind of came back after a little break that we had, and she not only gave us these Christmas gifts, but she like wrote. It wasn't like a Hallmark card. It was actually like printed out on paper. Yeah. Like kind of these.
It's kind of like a personal letter.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, it was basically a personal letter, and it had like a lot of, like mine anyway. I guess I certainly didn't read yours. But it was just very detailed as far as like there were a lot of very specific things from the past year that she picked up on that like I hadn't even realized that she was aware of.
Yeah.
There was something that I posted to social media that she referenced that I didn't even know that she looked at.
Yeah.
Some things like that, and it was just like, wow, like, there's so many like personal details inside of this, and obviously what she did as far as like doing that with industry pros, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Part of the game is definitely playing to your fans. Part of the game in the music industry is playing to other pros. Gifting gratitude, that's a whole other game that we could get into.
Yeah.
But something really important. But as far as your fans go, obviously, you can't every single day write, personal letters to everyone. But
Sure.
you can do a lot of other things. Staying after a show. And, even though, because I've been there, you want, it can get late. You really want to get on the road. Everyone on the crew is tired. People are waiting on you, like, especially if you have any sort of crew or help or volunteers. People might be waiting on you to, help them load up, and they can get a little antsy if you're hanging around talking to people. But being there, sharing your story, hearing their stories, is just so powerful.
Yeah. And another thing that, I mean, our listeners know that we're a really big fan of is podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that everybody listening to this should have a podcast. They may or they maybe shouldn't. But what I like about it is not the podcast in of itself. It's the fact that people listening to it are listening generally more patiently because they're going to listen. There's a better chance they're going to stay to the end of the podcast because they're either listening in a drive to work or they're listening while they're doing dishes or something, as opposed to being on YouTube and then a suggested video pops up.
Absolutely.
And they click off of it. I mean, your retention rate is so much deeper, so you have a lot more chance to go personal in conversations.
Yeah, and it's not just about, it's definitely about being personal with you. So yeah, if you have the opportunity to do something long form like a podcast and get personal, that's really powerful. The other side, though, is how can you do things that basically project the people in your audience onto someone else. So for instance, like, we run our own podcast, and in doing that, we share all these sorts of stories with the guests that we bring on and all these struggles that they've been through. And even though, there's like hundreds of people listening to the podcast, we're only truly talking to one person in that moment. But we're talking about something very personal, something that the people listening can really relate to. So because we're getting so personal on that level, it's just, it's a projection thing. It allows people to imagine that they're that person and connect with it in such a deeper way. Another example of that is if you're doing a show and say you bring someone up, on stage for whatever reason, maybe to sing a part of a song, maybe to play something, maybe just to talk. Like, there's so many different reasons. If you go to concerts, I'm sure you've seen plenty of times where artists will bring audience members up on stage for whatever reason. And even if you're not selected to be up on stage, you kind of imagine yourself in that person's shoes. You're instantly imagining, what would it be like if I was the person who was up there? But it's little things like that. If you can be personal to one person, it kind of feels personal to so much of the rest of your audience. And so there's so much value in doing that and being really intentional about every different way that you can be personal with someone.
And I think there's a big misconception that a lot of artists have, that people really just want their music.
Absolutely.
I think what they really want is they want a relationship. They want, your friendship, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Like, there was a great quote that people don't really hear your story. They hear their story through your story.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of artists fail to recognize that, hey, the music's important. The music's got to be great. That's your craft. That's your baseline. But there is, as we just talked about, there's so much of it out there now that what people are really impressed with is they're impressed with the fact that, Taylor Swift's a great example.
Absolutely.
She'll show up and surprise her fans at their houses. It's more about the relationship symbolically than it is even her songs.
Yeah. And again, even though, Taylor Swift probably hasn't shown up at your house, the fact that she has shown up at someone else's house makes it relatable. It makes it feel like, what if I was that person? It just it allows you to project yourself onto the story. In the exact same way, a good movie is written when you can really relate to one of the characters in it. Yeah. That's what makes the story matter to you.
Yeah. It's a relatability factor. There was actually a great podcast that I listened to from Ty Lopez where he dove really, and it's a great episode, honestly, for people to check out if they're listening. Go search it on his podcast. But it really just talks about the common denominator between any successful form of media, whether it's a book or a blockbuster movie or a song. It usually has something really deeply relatable on a human level, and most of the time, a lot of the time, it has to do with love. And he goes into the example of the new movie Coco that just came out, and the whole thing's based around the love from a grandmother. I mean, what is more primal human that people understand than that? So I think relatability is really important, and that's a big key in being personal.
Yeah.
You talked about, some personal emails was something that you talked about recently.
Yeah, for sure. So every opportunity that you get, you absolutely want to do personal things because, again, even if it's not direct to a fan, other fans will kind of project themselves into that situation. But there are ways that you actually literally can be personal, direct, one-on-one. We talked about one of them, literally staying after shows to physically talk to a fan one-on-one. If you connect with them in a deep way, even if and don't let this happen, but even if the next bit of music you put out is mediocre, they're far more likely to purchase it if they feel like they have a relationship with you, versus if you put out an amazing song but they feel like they have no personal connection.
That is so true. And there's a great little term that I've heard in Nashville. It's called the gimme ad. And I definitely, if any artists are listening to this, we've worked with a lot of them who kind of get this, but there's a certain point in your career where you've established enough relational equity with radio stations or whoever your gatekeepers are that, just like you said, it's almost like if you put anything out, they'll add it.
Yeah.
And they'll play it. And there's a certain point where that kind of trails off, but that has everything to do with what you just said, that people are, I don't think they do that consciously, but subconsciously they're doing it because they listen to something or someone that they trust through a completely different filter.
Yeah.
Song could be the same exact song if another artist did it, even maybe they even did it better, but they're not well trusted. They're not going to get the ad, and they're not going to get listened to. So,
and so as an individual, definitely again with industry relationships, if you can do that sort of thing with radio, with anyone in the industry, that's amazing. One way to do it with fans for sure. Is you can use an email list with a professional email service provider. And if you actually send out emails, first of all, make them seem personal. Use a first name in it. Like these professional programs will let you autofill it, so that way you can say, like if I send an email to you, it would automatically populate and say, hey, Seth, how's it going, or whatever. But then always offer an opportunity for them to respond in those emails, and then actually respond to them. Obviously that does actually take chunking out some time in your calendar to focus on that and actually make it happen. But if you go ahead and you go through, again, those emails, you give them the opportunity to personally respond to you, that's so much more powerful than social media and so many other platforms. But literally it can be a sentence or two, respond something back to them. They might remember that for the rest of their lives. It's something that no other artists are doing. Again, it's a really powerful way to break through the noise.
Yeah, that's so true. Can we show them some tools that maybe we use? I always think it's powerful to talk about these things, but even more powerful sometimes to get a first-hand look at just some of these things that we use every day and why we use them.
For sure. So if you are watching this live, we'll include some links to these tools after the video is over. So if you want to come back, we'll include links. If you're not watching this live, if you're watching this after the fact, then you should see links there. Oh yeah, YouTube will be in the description. So this is GetResponse right here, and I won't go into any crazy details, but this is the email platform that we use. We like it because it's also one of the cheapest, but they offer...
The monitor's not mirrored. You have it to a second monitor.
Our producer just let us know that the monitor needs to be mirrored, so you guys will be seeing this any second. Don't you love technology?
Indeed. Part of the reason we're doing this, we're getting more and more into Facebook Lives, and like we said, we have tons of equipment back here that you guys can't see. And our wonderful X and Jericho are going super pro on this, but we are a little bit on the newer side too. So this is the first time we've ever tried screen sharing on a Facebook Live.
Yeah.
So we're seeing what happens.
Is Jericho giving us the thumbs up that we're getting it? Saying we're not getting it yet.
Okay. I mean, we can go over other tools. I mean, basically, I'll like I said, I'll include links to things, but we can talk about some. Definitely GetResponse, highly recommended for email. There's a really cool tool called Bonjoro, which lets you actually capture personal video messages to send to people. So say you do a show, and a few people sign up for your email list that night. Literally the next day, you could send a personal, and I mean personal, so like one person signs up and you record a special video message just for them. But so you record that, it tells you who you're supposed to record it for. You record it and it automatically sends that video message to that person. So they literally get a personalized video message from you. You can also do that if they ever purchase anything directly from you. Say they purchase an album. You can literally send them an instant, or as quick as you can do it, personal video message saying, hey, wanted to check in. How'd you like the album?
I love it.
Then another cool one that we use a lot around here is Google Voice. Yeah. It's not like a super automated thing, but if you ever want to text fans without giving them your personal number, Google Voice will give you for free a secondary number that will connect to your phone automatically. And with that, you could ask for fans' phone numbers in an email, and some days you could just go through a couple of them and just text them and say, hey, this is so-and-so artist, and or even if you're a songwriter or a producer or something, and people are on your list, just say, hey, just want to check in on you. Is there anything, I can help with or know about? If you're a Christian artist, I'm literally even asking, if you can pray about something. Like things like that go miles and miles long.
Yeah, I love it. So be personal. That's number one.
Absolutely.
Second thing is we're moving down the list of the 4 things that your fans desperately want from you in 2018 is...
to be fast. That is just the nature of the culture that we live in now. If you're not fast on something, people forget.
Now, what do you mean? What do you mean fast? Just like respond quick, or what do you mean by that?
I mean almost everything that they feel. So like if they purchase a ticket for your show, make sure that that's confirmed. Make sure that and people. Again, just the culture of 2018. People hate waiting in line. So that doesn't necessarily mean you can do anything short in line, but try and make sure things start on time. Like shows often notoriously get, or when doors open, for instance, like that often gets pushed back a little bit. So try and make sure that can happen when it's supposed to happen. But especially like when it comes to social media and things like that, you want to follow up with people immediately. This relates a little bit to being personal, but if you're not fast, if you're not the one sending them the message, the very next message, someone else is going to send them a message, and you're going to get lost. So this especially means, say, because most artists starting out, or all the way through to A-list artists, they're playing shows in some degree, whether it's a small coffee shop or whether it's an arena with thousands of people. Either way, when you play a show, your goal is to keep them as fans. You don't want to play a show and have them forget about you. Your goal is to keep them around, keep them interested in you. So literally, if you play a show, especially if it's like a show where there's like 5 artists at the show or something, and maybe you're the opener. If you play a show and you have any number of people attending, the very next day, good chance they're honestly going to forget about you, or especially by the next week. I mean, it's just like, because there's so many other pieces of information coming, literally flying at them, that they have to pay attention to. So if you want to capture their attention permanently, what you need to do is be fast on follow-ups. So if they come to a show, you want to do something the following day to say thank you. So if they signed up for your email list, send them an email the very next day saying, so glad you came to blank show. It was a blast. Here's a picture from the show. Yeah. Things like that to just engage them right away. If you come out with an album, put up some social media posts asking, what people thought of the album. Just don't kind of like release something and then let things hang. Because that's what so many artists do. They push something out, they do a show that they engage with fans, but then it hangs. So sometimes for months before you send another message to that same fan. Yeah. Again, especially relating to live shows.
Well, Facebook, and I just learned this, but they actually have a button that pops up. If you have a Facebook page, which chances are if you're an artist, you do, and you should.
Absolutely.
There's a button that pops up on the page if you're quick to respond to messages.
Yeah.
That says, hey, this person is a 100% of the time fast responder.
100%. And that's a really good point. That's a way that fans might want to engage with you. If you allow them to send you messages on Facebook and you respond quickly, that could be game changer for their interaction with you. Same thing with social media. If you put something up, like say just even a question, like some artists do just, silly stuff. Should I have Cheetos or Doritos today? But even, if people are answering that, you want to give them some sort of, even if it's just a like back, or if, it's something a little bit deeper, some sort of response, but you want to do it quickly. And again, this kind of comes down to calendaring your time out. So just like email responses, choose one day a week this is my social media respond day. So all the comments that I got on YouTube, I'm going to respond to those. Everyone who tweeted at me, I'm going to respond to them. Everyone who commented on a Facebook post, I'm going to respond to them. Everyone who sent me an email, I'm going to respond to them. Be fast about it, because if people get communication quickly back from you, they feel really important to you.
Yeah.
And again, just this day and age, if you're not fast, you get forgotten.
Yeah. The other that's exactly what I was just going to say, is that people are, we talked about this whole information overload, and we're going through a team-wide productivity course right now, which our big challenge this morning was on distractions. Information overload is at an all-time high, and information overconsumption is really what causes people stress and burnout. So distraction has never been higher, so being fast and staying top of mind for people is really, really, really important if you want to be a successful artist nowadays.
100%.
Can you talk a little bit about this whole Facebook advertising, Facebook pixels?
Yeah, this is one other idea that I had to kind of automate some of this. This is a little bit more advanced, but you can, for instance, if you release a music video, brand new music video, if you put that on your own website, like you can still embed the YouTube video on your own website, but instead of taking people directly to YouTube, it'll still count for YouTube views and all that sort of thing. But you can actually pixel them, which means Facebook will basically track and say, hi, okay, this so-and-so went to this page and saw this music video. So say you release the music video on a Monday, you could, and then everyone who goes and sees it on that Monday, Facebook would track. Then on Tuesday, you could spend $5, $15, $20 and just create a little post just for those people that literally they would see on your music feed. And it could be all sorts of stuff. It could be leading them to additional content. It could be just, thank you for checking out the music video. What did you think of it? But there's a lot of ways through Facebook and through some very small budget advertising that could actually be really valuable towards those very, very fast follow-ups versus what a lot of people do where, it's just, I have a post that's performing well, let me just try and boost it for whatever reason. Or, I just came out with an album, let me, put up a Facebook ad for an iTunes link or something. Like, if you divert your Facebook advertising dollars to something like that, to something where people take an action and then you use Facebook to give them another experience right after they've taken that action, really, really good things can happen as far as that customer retention, keeping them engaged.
Yeah, it's good. So be personal, be fast, and tell your fans your
story.
That's number 3.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is a lot of artists are, just to be blunt, they're vague. A lot of artists just don't have a lot of direction or purpose to what's going on. So if I'm at, say, a music festival and I see where there's literally potentially hundreds of artists at this thing, it's so easy to be missed at something like that. But if you are playing on a stage and you gain an audience, why, if I'm in the audience, why do I care about what you're doing? Yes, your music might be great, and if it is, really great, I might go look it up afterwards. But for the most part, I want to be, quote, captured and engaged. That's a Tom Jackson quote. He's kind of one of the industry gurus for stage performance. But the whole goal when you're on stage is to capture and engage your audience. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is through story. If I don't know your story, Seth, then quite frankly, why do I care about what you're doing? And so 100% with artists, or with pretty much anytime you're writing a song, anytime you're doing anything, I would encourage people, anyone posting on anything on social media, it's so much about the story. So when you're on stage, what story can you tie in to what you're doing? What are you about? Why does it matter? Same with when you're making social media posts. What are you about? What stories matter to what you're doing? Really good example. You brought up Taylor Swift earlier. She's actually extremely good at story too. The whole album that she just released, Reputation, was literally hyped up by this, and she did in so many different means, not just the music itself, but through the whole social media strategy that went on before it. It was all about the story of literally changing her reputation and erasing what she had done before.
Yeah. So good. And it's really important for people to learn how to, I like that you use the word vague. A lot of people don't realize they're being pretty vague. It's important for your message to be ultra clear.
Yeah.
We've learned that from Donald Miller and StoryBrand, that confused people are not going to buy what you do.
Absolutely.
Like, if they're at all confused about what you stand for, about who you are, I would argue that it's as important, if you're an artist, to be as good, if not better, at telling your story than you are at just writing songs and crafting music.
And if you get some sort of industry meeting, your story and a concise story is what's going to matter. And I know I especially bring this up because, Seth, a lot of people ask you for help and advice on careers and things. So people who come through our academy at events, for instance, there's also some artists that we're mentoring or developing. And sometimes I'm a part of those meetings. Sometimes I'm just overhearing things. But I feel like story and your identity and who you are is probably something that I think you bring up almost more than anything else. Because that's what that's what can truly make or break an artist, their identity and what matters about them. And that's what so many artists just, maybe they do have a direction, but maybe they have a lot of different ideas and they just need a clear, concise lane.
Yeah, because the problem is once you get into the industry, there are probably at any given moment 10 to 15 people speaking into your career with their opinion of who they think you are or who you should be.
Absolutely.
It's really important for you to have a creative center that you understand, who am I not, what am I okay with saying, how do I want to be perceived, who do I want to speak to, because if you don't find your own voice, somebody else will find it for you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take that. That's my friend Mia Fields just said that here in a writing session a couple days ago. We were talking about an artist who we just kind of felt like doesn't really have a voice. It's other people giving it for them. So if you don't find your voice, somebody else is gonna find it for you.
And that's assuming that you're at a place where you have a team already, where other people. But if you don't have a team, if you're kind of more just starting out, no one is going to find that voice for you.
And I'll argue though, because our artist Madeleine, we just had a meeting with the other day, who's a new country artist that we're developing. Even in the very beginning stages, you'll still have people putting thoughts in your head of like, why do you do this on your socials? Should you say this? Should you not? In her case, it was like being a country artist. And I think she's fine with us sharing this, and she's very raw and vulnerable.
We'll find out.
We'll find out if she's watching this. But the whole issue was over. She's a person of faith. She has a strong relationship with God, and some people were speaking into her social media saying maybe you shouldn't post that kind of stuff if you want to be a country artist. So even at the very beginning stages, I think you have to have a very strong conviction of who you are and who you're not. Because if you don't have it, your friends are going to find it for you. And then once you sign the record deal, your label's going to find it for you if you don't have it. And ultimately, that's not what they want. Like, they want you to have your own thing anyway. So, important to be clear. If you,
like another way of looking at it is if you took the music away completely, and if you were just on stage or making a video, and you just had to talk about something that would matter to your audience, what would you talk about? And again, why would it matter? If you literally stripped, because so many people do that. There are all these speakers, podcasters, video makers who rely on this power of story and this power of engagement with their audience. So if you literally took the music away, why would it still be valuable for someone to come to see you on stage? No music at all.
Sure. Yeah. It's all about the story. So a really good piece of advice from Andy Karp, who was the former A&R at Atlantic Records, signed artists like Kid Rock, Skillet, who we work with, Uncle Cracker, Simple Plan. One big piece of advice he has for his artists that he works with is go take improv classes, like stand-up classes, or take acting classes.
Absolutely.
Because the skill of learning to speak extemporaneously when nobody is telling you, here's what to say, that's a skill that's really important to have as an artist.
I mean, honestly, and if you disagree, definitely let me know, Seth. But I would kind of argue that the power of story, the power of engagement, doing things like that, taking those acting classes, like if you had to choose, and you shouldn't choose because you should still do this, but if you had to choose between like vocal lessons and quote story or acting or engagement or improv lessons, like, you know, there are all sorts of famous musicians who don't have as good a vocal ability as others, but they're really, really good at capturing and engaging an audience. And if you want a career, yes, vocals should probably be quite important. But an amazing vocalist, I mean, you have to be way up there to be able to really capture and engage people purely on vocal talent. And most people are never going to get there. So what else can you do with the power of engagement and story and
being relatable? It's all about being relatable. So let's talk about the last point.
All right.
Your fans want you to be
professional.
They do.
We got to the last P.
We did.
Went to our
two P's.
PFSP. So this day and age, you just got to be professional in the sense of, again, like it's just so much easier for people to do certain things. I mean, the fact that we right now have like basically an entire professional Facebook Live setup here in our studio. I mean, it's like something that, again, just like a decade ago, like getting this kind of equipment, this kind of setup would have been so difficult. But you can do very similar things over just an iPhone. So there are all sorts of different aspects of your career that professionalism relate to, just because basically your fans aren't going to give you an excuse anymore. If you kind of do that little homemade photo shoot, for instance, where, you know, you're kind of in your backyard with a friend with a semi-nice camera or something like that, I mean, things like that aren't really going to fly as much as they used to. You know, music that you put out that isn't totally tight on the editing, that doesn't sound, you know, mixed and mastered just like the other professional things out there, it is going to get passed over. And so, with professionalism, like one great example, we're coming up with a new logo for a new project that we're embarking upon. And Seth literally, like, out of the blue one evening just sent me an email saying, hey, played around with my iPhone a little bit with a new app that I found. Here's a bunch of design ideas. And it's like, I mean, it was some stock stuff that he played around with, but they looked so good.
Well, thank you. My design skills are coming in handy.
but literally, I mean, you just did that with an iPhone, and I don't know what. You said you might have been using like multiple apps.
There was like 2 or 3 different apps I was kind of bouncing back and forth. But yeah, your point is great. I think a lot of people can get caught up in, well, if I don't have the resources and if I don't have the money, how do I even appear professional? Now, I would argue that nowadays it is easier than ever to appear professional with some thought, some planning. I think that's a lot of it, is just like planning. Even when you're shooting a video, if it's on an iPhone, just thinking about what is the lighting going to be like. Are you sitting in front of your bedroom lamp? That's going to probably look really bad. Go outside or sit next to a window, get some natural light. Just things that don't cost you anything, that will just make you appear more like you've got your act together.
Get some sort of audio source that's better than your phone audio source. That goes a long way.
Somebody gave us a stat the other day that I think it's 90% more important that the audio be clean as opposed to the video being super clean, because people will click off a video faster if the audio quality is not good. So even just getting a cheap,
I was gonna say, for probably like $20, like a $20 accessory, you could drastically improve your audio.
Just get a lapel that you plug right into your iPhone, clips right on your shirt. There's a lot of stuff you can do.
So that's definitely an example. But yeah, especially when it comes to graphics, what you're posting on socials, and again, your show, just because, you know, it's easier for people to have all these musical opportunities. So how are you going to get through the noise if your show isn't crazy professional? If it doesn't look well rehearsed, if it doesn't look well planned out, the fans are going to pick up on that. Definitely. Any videos that you're doing, and also another big one, like presentation and artwork for your music. If you're releasing a project, make the artwork look pro. You know, it doesn't have to be complicated or anything like that. But if you don't have the design skills, you might need to hire someone, because that artwork is going to go such a long way in such a visual world that we live in now. Same with even like presentation, physical copies of music are getting less and less common now. But if you're doing physical, selling it at a show, for instance, say it's cheaper to do the wallets. That means a jewel case is kind of your standard CD that you find at a store, but if a wallet is literally just like a cardboard sleeve that goes in it. But it's perceived as cheaper. It's perceived as not as valuable. Maybe that, if you really need to save money, that maybe that could work for what you're giving to fans. But print a few extra in jewel cases that you would give to industry professionals, so that way they don't kind of come in with that first perception of, oh, this is a cheaper project.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's and perception, unfortunately, is reality.
Absolutely.
I think for people, you want them to perceive you as a pro artist. So, Logan, why don't you cycle over to our Facebook page and see if there's any questions that we can answer while we're on. I know we got to wrap up here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
We've got
we have a few comments here, but we kind of I don't think we really properly announced that we were taking questions.
Okay, gotcha.
So if anyone, there's some other stuff that we can cover, but that was kind of the gist of what we were going for. So if any of you have any specific questions about anything that we just covered, if you have any questions about music marketing in general or music industry, pretty much anything.
People can always, they can always email us too, right?
Yeah.
Like if they've got questions on, okay, well, how do I set up an email list, or how do I improve my website?
Yep.
I know you're talking with people all the time about that.
Yeah, I get at least weekly. There's someone emailing us asking for advice on that sort of thing. Yeah.
So if people want to, and they're not on the Facebook Live, but they're watching this in rerun, how can they contact you to ask any of those type of questions?
Support@fullcirclemusic.com will definitely be the best way to go.
Support@fullcirclemusic.com. And you can message our Facebook page as well, too.
I was going to say, Facebook, Instagram, we check messages on Instagram. Email is probably the fastest way to get a hold of us, to make sure, because we have it's taken us some refinement, but we have a pretty good system now where we kind of have each email ticketed, and we make sure that we get back to them. So emailing support@fullcirclemusic.com is definitely a good way to go there. But for now, if you are on here live and you have any sort of question or anything, we'd be more than happy to take it and chat about it.
Yeah. And if nobody does, maybe we just dive in really quick, just some really essential tools that we're using every day. What are we using for email service provider?
So with that, GetResponse, there's plenty of others that you can use. Gmail is not the answer. A lot of people, it's very common, especially for newer artists, to do things like get on Noise Trade, and to collect some sort of emails, maybe on a sheet of paper at a merch table at shows or something like that. But then they kind of just put all of them into a contacts list on Gmail and send them out. If you do that, you can't track any of it. A lot of that actually gets easily blocked by spam filters, because if Gmail sees you sending that many emails, it assumes that you're not supposed to be doing that, basically. Sure. And there's all sorts of things that go into it. But you definitely want a professional option. MailChimp is a good one if you truly have zero budget. We use GetResponse. For any of the sales that we're doing, we use Samcart. For a lot of the for when we go to events and we want to capture emails, we use a service called Lead Pages, which gives us a phone number tool called Lead Digits that allows us to go ahead and literally just, from the stage say, hey, text this little phrase to 44222 or whatever. And it's really easy to capture people. So again, so that we can, the following day, if we're doing what we're supposed to do, if you came to an event and we did that, you would get a message from us literally the next day saying, thank you for attending whatever event it was. I'm so glad to have met you and give you some additional options to engage with us.
And back when I was a touring artist, which is how I kind of got into it, I wish I would have known about something like this, or that it would have existed. the tools nowadays are so, virtually affordable, virtually free to use. I mean, you do have to pay for lead pages and lead digits, but the cost compared to what it's worth, re-engaging those 100 or 200 people that showed up at your concert.
That's the lifeblood of your business.
That's it. And most artists just think, well, I go play the show and then go on to the next one and kind of forget all about it. So, and if you forget about it, your fans are going to forget about it. So,
well, and honestly, that's such a good way to put it. But that's really almost what it is. If you forget about the fans who came to your show, the fans who came to that show are going to forget about you.
They'll certainly forget about
you. And the burden is on you to keep that relationship going 100%.
Yeah, it's not on them. So we use a lot of Fiverr for like any design stuff. We talked about design a little bit, just appearing very professional. Fiverr is a great resource where you can literally just go on and hire kind of a virtual assistant to design a logo or record a voiceover for something or make a little video animation. There's a ton of stuff you can do on Fiverr.
Yeah, so I mean, if you don't feel like your skills are quite what they need to be as far as design work or anything like that, Fiverr's definitely it's definitely very budget friendly. Some of it can definitely be hit or miss, but it's a good thing to explore if you haven't explored that before.
Yeah.
And then we have. Well, with Fiverr, like you said, voiceovers are really good for anything you might be doing with video. It's a good place to get some, animations for like the front end of a video or something like that. But other good options for graphics would be like 99 Designs.
99 Design is
Design
great.
Crowd.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to become like a Photoshop pro. There's a lot of other cool tools. Canva.
Pixelmator.
I love Pixelmator because it's very similar to Photoshop, but it's like, I think, $30 on the App Store.
Yeah, Canva is amazing. I love Canva because it's got...
A lot of our interns have really appreciated Canva.
Yeah, and it does like presets for like YouTube thumbnails, Instagram posts, Twitter posts, just different types of things. So, man, this has been great chat.
We do have a few questions if we want to hit them real quick.
Yeah, let's hit them real quick. Just got a couple minutes.
Yeah. Okay, so... What is the most effective social media platform for an artist?
That is
from Daniel Weeks.
Daniel, all right.
Good old Daniel.
Good old Daniel.
We know him.
I think, honestly, it doesn't really matter. I think you kind of just have to recognize, okay, who's your demographic? I would tend to think, if you have a younger demographic that's, maybe in the teenage years, I think Snapchat probably is where a lot of them are on. They're on. I mean,
Snapchat as a company is, to my knowledge, in a little bit of turmoil at the moment, but the kids are definitely still using.
The kids
Snapchat.
Are using Snapchat. I mean, I always suggest that artists really get great at YouTube because you're kind of killing two birds with one stone. YouTube is owned by Google, so anytime whether you're uploading a cover song or something, if people are searching on Google, it's going to prioritize YouTube content.
Yep.
So getting really good at understanding that, it's automatically going to get you at the front of search results if you have relevant titles on your videos.
I think ultimately with a social platform, it depends mostly on not necessarily just what platform is best for musicians, but rather get into your fans' mind. Where just would they enjoy interacting with you the most? So that's the thought number one. Number two is, what are you good at? What do you spend time in?
Exactly.
If you're on Twitter a lot and you're engaging with other people on Twitter naturally, Twitter's a great platform for you. If you're on Facebook a whole lot and you just know how Facebook works, use Facebook. The important thing is get really good at one of them, maybe get semi-good at a second one. Don't worry about all of them. But yeah, definitely get really good at one. But really, that's the important thing. Choose one.
At least
make a
pick
commitment
one and
to
get
one.
good at it. Yes. It's a good question.
What are thoughts on crowdsourcing and raising funds in regards to sharing stories? Like can sharing your story really help with crowdsourcing and fundraising? This is from Aaron Crane.
Yeah, I think, and I'm assuming he's referring to Kickstarter, Pledge Music,
Indiegogo, Pledge Music,
Patreon,
that kind of stuff.
Those type of services. I think they can be great, but again, you almost have to treat it like what we just talked about, like a social media platform. Pick one, get really good at it, understand what works, what doesn't work. And yes, story is 100,000%. If that's going to be your method of raising funds to fund your career, you have to be immensely good at telling a compelling story.
I mean, honestly, especially if you have a goal of like 10K or something like that. It's a little different if you have a goal of like 1K, 2K. But if you have a goal for like 10 grand, I would literally spend $500 working with someone online or something, like developing the script for your video or something like that.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like a lot of people who donate to things like that, you know, sometimes you pass it on to friends and family, people who might not be as familiar with your music. But again, the question is why does it matter? And I'd probably, for someone starting out who really needs those finances to help, you know, get them where they need to go, having a reason for them to back beyond just, hey, we're gonna make great music.
Sure.
Well, you know, isn't this like some of the best music you've ever heard? Like, no, beyond that, why does it matter? Even if you don't like my genre, even if I'm a country artist and you just don't like country at all, if I'm a rapper hip hop artist and you have no interest in rapper hip hop, why does backing my project still matter from a story perspective?
That's a great question. We are out of time today. This has been a blast. We're going to be doing a lot more of these in the upcoming year. So
Indeed.
If you're watching this, stay tuned on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page. Hit us up on our socials. It's always at official FC Music. And I'm Seth Mosley. I'm really glad you took the time to be with us today.